Well, hi, and thanks for stopping by the Pellets and Pistons Airgun channel. Today we've got a real treat, a blast from the past. It's a Model 124 Feinwerkbau air rifle. This is a famous gun. If you've been around air guns as long as I have, you'll definitely know about this rifle. This is highly sought after by both collectors and shooters alike, and it's mainly because of its very fine German craftsmanship. It's just a sweetheart of a rifle. So I bought it secondhand, of course, and when I bought it, the seller explained that the gun did not shoot. He said it would cock and fire, but it wouldn't shoot. And having been around air guns as long as I have, and having known the history of this Feinwerkbau, I deduced that the problem was probably the piston seal. That's a common problem with these guns. The original seals would get brittle with age, and then they would just deteriorate, and the gun would mash all the parts up into the end of the compression chamber each time the piston slammed home. So I figured that was probably what was going on. So I ordered the gun, and I went ahead and ordered a tune kit from ARH or Jim McCarry. The tune kit is a soft kit. He also offers a full power version, but I wanted the soft kit. I wanted a real sweet shooting gun. I wasn't concerned with velocity so much. I've got plenty of guns that shoot faster than this, so I just wanted one that would shoot real comfortably. So I put the soft kit in this gun, and this video will be the procedure. This is the whole, from beginning to end, disassembly, taking out the old parts, cleaning the gun out, putting the new parts in, and then reassembling everything. However, full disclosure, you're seeing the second time around. The first time around, I did a fantastic job. I did exactly what I just told you. I took the gun all apart. I took all the old parts out. I put all the new parts in after cleaning everything, and then I reassembled the gun. I got it all on video, and while I was editing, I pushed the wrong button and deleted all my files permanently. They were all gone. I also had foolishly erased the video cards that I used in my cameras, so I had no way to recover the information. I won't make that mistake again. But at any rate, the only option if I wanted to show you guys how to tune one of these things was to do the whole job again, and that's exactly what I did. I took the gun back apart. I took all the old parts out, or all the new parts out. I put all the old parts back in. I reassembled the gun, and then I started the cameras and did the whole job all over again for you. So you're seeing the second time around, and that's why all the parts that come out of this gun are going to be sparkling clean, because they've already been out and were already cleaned by yours truly. But it still gives you the basic idea of how to do everything, but you'll have more of a messy looking gun when you get yours apart for the first time. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's educational for you. If you've ever tuned a gun before, this is probably just not going to give you much, but at least you can compare your method to my method. I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you stick around and watch it. I hope you can see it in your heart to subscribe. I really need your subscription. It helps my channel immensely. So push that button and subscribe. Hit the bell to be reminded, and give me a thumbs up if you like what you see. So off to the workbench. We're going to take this thing apart, and we're going to do a full tune on it. And after that, we'll take it outside and put a couple of rounds through it just to see how it shoots, and maybe we'll even ring that bell for you. Thanks again for stopping by the Pellets and Pistons Airgun channel. Okay, so it's time to dive into the Feinwerkbau 124. The first step will be to remove the stock. Once the stock is out of the way, we can have a good look at the action. There's not much to it, not much going on. It's a pretty simple design. Right here I'm pointing out the lug that must be removed in order to release the trigger group along with the mainspring. Here we're looking at the safety, which protrudes from the rear of the receiver. I made a block up which houses that safety and protects it from damage as we take the tension off the mainspring. So we'll chuck it up in the spring vise and we'll get this puppy opened up. We'll get just the right amount of tension on the rear face of the receiver, and that'll help to take some of the pressure off of the recoil, or off of the lug that we're removing now. Set that aside for later. And now we can begin to decompress the mainspring. You'll notice that I'm holding my hand underneath the trigger group, and that is to catch the safety as it falls from the gun as soon as it clears the receiver. Here you can see the safety as well as the tensioning spring that sits underneath it. Back at the bench, we'll remove the mainspring, and then we can begin the process of removing the barrel and cocking lever. First step is to remove the tension screw on the right hand side of the receiver, which is screwed into the barrel pivot pin. Once that's out of the way, we can remove the barrel pivot pin itself. You'll notice that I'm changing bits on my screwdriver each time I go to a new screw, and that's because this is a gunsmith screwdriver set, which I highly recommend. It prevents damage to your screw heads by ensuring that you have the proper fitting screwdriver. You'll notice that I broke open the barrel, and that'll make taking the barrel pivot bolt out much easier. So remove the bolt and set it aside. And this will free up the barrel within the forks so that it can be slid out. Now this one happens to be very tight, but it will come out. And when it does, the cocking link is going to come with it, which is not typical. Normally you have to lift and separate the cocking link from the cocking shoe, but this time we got lucky. The next step is to remove the cocking shoe so that we can relieve the piston from the cylinder. Once the shoe is out of the way, the piston can be removed. You'll notice that there's no piston seal, and that's because it had decayed over time and crumbled and was jammed up into the front of the compression chamber. The new piston seal will snap into the place at the forward end of the piston. Now it's time for the molybdenum disulfide grease, commonly called moly grease. And we're going to put a light coat around the outside edge of the piston seal. We don't want to get so much on the forward edge of the piston seal because that'll just cause dieseling, which is undesirable for many reasons. A little more grease to the rear bearing surface of the piston as well. And set that aside for a minute or two. So getting the debris from the crumbled piston seal out of the receiver tube was a chore, to say the least. But after scraping the forward end of the receiver several minutes, I was able to get all the particles loose and then swab it out with acetone to remove residual greases and oils. So now it's clean and ready for reassembly. We're also going to grease the locking lug on the end of the piston rod where it engages with the trigger sear. Now it's time to reassemble the piston into the receiver tube. Be careful here, it's easy to damage that piston seal. Not too much force, make sure everything's going in nice and straight. Take your time and use a gentle hand. Once the piston's in as far as you can put it by hand, a wooden dowel chucked up in a vise is a nice tool to seat it in a little further. Once it's in about 3/4 of the way, you can go ahead and replace the cocking shoe into the slot where it belongs. But before you do, it's a good idea to grease the bearing surfaces of that shoe where it rides within the piston. Once it's greased, be sure to orient it in the correct direction. The hook on this cocking shoe needs to face forward towards the forks of the receiver tube to accept the cocking rod when it's reinserted. Once the shoe's in place, it needs to be centered in the slot so that it can be slid back and forth easily. Slide it all the way to the forward end of the piston, and then use that dowel again to completely push the piston home to the forward end of the compression chamber. Now we can go about reassembling the barrel and cocking arm assembly. Take a good look at the bearings on either side of that breech block and make sure that they're still centered over the hole. Engage that cocking lever into the cocking shoe, and then add a little grease to those bearings to ensure a nice smooth operation when you cock the rifle. Go ahead and slide the parts back together again until the pivot hole lines up. Now go ahead and install the barrel pivot bolt. And tighten it down firmly. You want this to be relatively tight to the point that when you cock the gun and the barrel is free to move up and down, that at any point in its arc you can release it and it will hold its position. I hope that makes sense. Go ahead and close the action. And go ahead and reinstall the barrel pivot pin tension screw. Always using the correct screwdriver. Here we see the new mainspring with the top hat and the bushing. We grease the bushing on the inside in both the forward and rear faces. And then go ahead and install that on the spring guide, pushing it all the way down against the trigger housing. A little added grease just for good measure, to the point where the spring will be making contact. A little more grease on the forward end of the top hat, as well as on the inside and the outside. Now, I'm not sure that greasing the outside of the top hat is going to make any difference, but I'm pretty sure that it won't hurt anything. For this next step, you're going to want some latex gloves. We're going to be playing with spring tar, and that's about as sticky gets. It's black and it's smeared and it sticks to everything that it touches, and it's just a real hassle to work with it. So put your gloves on and be careful what you touch. Light coat all over the mainspring. We want to be sure to coat each coil, but we don't have to apply so much that it's completely doused in it. We just want a nice coating that stretches between the coils. Just like that. Now here we see the new piston and the new spring and top hat alongside the old mainspring, and it's amazing the difference, especially when you consider that there's only a 5% drop in velocity using this softer kit. ARH also sells a standard kit which would bring it back up to the original factory specs or thereabout. Let's reinstall the spring guide. And we're almost ready to take it over to the vise. On the top of the trigger group, there's a recessed hole where the safety spring resides. Now in my particular gun, it stays in place once you get it in there right. But if you're having a hard time keeping yours in place, a little dab of that spring tar will do the trick. Chuck it back up in the spring vise. Now we're going to replace the safety, being careful to engage the little tab that's bent down on the underside of the safety. We want that tab to sit inside the hole at the end of the spring. Once you're there, you can compress that spring along with the safety, and you'll feel it kind of drop into a little groove. And you want to hold it into that groove as you apply pressure with the spring vise until the safety is held in position by the receiver tube, at which point you can let go and concentrate on just closing everything up nice and straight. So we get the holes to line up, and then it'll be in time to reassemble that locking lug bolt. Take your time here and make sure the hole is perfectly aligned. It's very easy to cross thread that bolt, so go slow and make sure you've got it before you think about putting a wrench to it. You're going to want to sock that lug down nice and firmly, because the rear stock screw that goes through the trigger guard anchors into the center of that bolt, and we don't want anything loosening up. So now the action has been reassembled, and all it's left to do is to put it back into the stock. Okay, so all that's left to do now is to get a scope on this thing and see how she shoots. As you can see by the numbers here, we're down quite a bit more than the 5% that ARH claims this kit should produce. However, that was a very tight-fitting piston seal, and I have a feeling that after it breaks in, these numbers will climb into the 700s. Okay, so we're out here on this rainy afternoon with the Feinwerkbau model 124. The weather's not too nice, so we're going to make this quick. We're just going to take a few shots so you can see the shot cycle, and we'll ring that bell once or twice just for fun. So anyway, let's take a look and see how we did on the Feinwerkbau 124. Cocking is virtually silent until the sear engages. This one's 177 caliber. It was a 127, I believe, if it was in 22 caliber. It does have an automatic safety, but the gun is able to be uncocked. So we're going to put it right here. I want you to watch the gun. You can watch right here at the butt, or you can watch the scope on the snow in the background, just so you can get a good idea how much movement we get, and that'll give you an idea on how smooth it shoots. So let's take a shot down into the ground. Just take a look in the gun and take a listen to the sound that it makes when it fires. Ooh, that's sweet. That's sweet. Now, I can't compare it to how it shot when I got it because it didn't shoot when I got it. But now it shoots pretty quiet. So here's your recoil and here's your sound. Oh, I'm in love. One more time. Listen to the gun. Watch for the recoil. You'll get an idea how smooth this thing is shooting now. And it is shooting smoothly. And I'm getting wet. Oh, what a sweetheart. So anyway, I think that's cause for celebration. So we're going to ring the celebratory bell out there at 60 yards. Just for fun. And to confirm that we did a good job. Oh yeah. Let's do that again, because that was pretty cool. I hope you can hear what I can hear. And I hope my microphone is not making too much noise. Sweet. What a sweet shooting rifle. The recoil is so soft that it reminds me of my R7. The cocking effort is beautiful. I guess it's only about 24, 25 pounds. And it rings the bell quite nicely. So anyway, that was the tune. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll subscribe. Thanks so much for stopping by the Pellets and Pistons Airgun channel.